And you know what you mentioned there also about the technology. I think that's an important aspect to all of this, because we know that the VMADs, or the active denial system, which DARPA and a few other military subsidiaries, these companies have been working at, is something that's been around for a long time. And one article that we have up on Red Eyes right now is about how this active denial system was actually converted into. They just changed the frequency a little bit, and basically you could use it as an amplifier that you only can hear if you're in the vicinity of the range of the acoustics, And they even did, I think the article was called "Death Ray Replaced by the Voice of God," So.
Oh God.
So this isn't sci-fi. This is happening right now.
There's something that's quite that's not concerned me, but obviously I've observed happening in this country and others, is that over the past 10 years, there's hundreds of these tetramasts that have gone up all around the country. The little square oblong radar satellite things that get put onto masts.
Yeah, the cell phone Wi-Fi.
Well, that's now everyone thinks that the cell phone and Wi-Fi, but they're actually for the emergency services. They're supposed to be used for like a separate thing for the emergency services. But basically, the amount of these masts that are going up around the place is unbelievable. And there's a website on the internet called TetraWatch, and it tells you what frequencies these masts can work on, and they can work on theta, beta, delta. They can work through the whole range of frequencies that can mess around with the human brain.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I mean, I was in Mexico, and I was traveling around Mexico, and before I went, I was thinking, great, I'm going to get away from these tetramasts and see what it's like to have good natural headspace again.
Yeah.
Without any of these electric vibes running through my brain, and. As soon as I flew into the Yucatan, what did I see? Well, they've got the masts there, but they're about 4 times as high. And I was driving around the Yucatan, and I was like, I've got to get to the bottom of this. What are these things? I don't understand what they are. And we drove into a city, capital city of Yucatan called Merida, and I had this urge to go up a certain direction in the street, and basically walked up the street. And I could see one of these big masts coming close to me, but it seemed bigger than the rest of them. And it turned out that I'd found the central site for where all these masts originate from.
Mm-hmm.
And I went towards the gate, and there's this big buzz, and then this security man popped up, and I was like, right, best not do that. And I looked pretty much towards the door, and on the door was the symbol for the French consulate, and there was a picture of ISIS with the 12 stars. So I was thinking, well, that's a bit suspect. But then I looked through the gate where I'd been basically warned off from going, and there's this huge logo on the side of the building that was like holding this mast, and it was an eye, and there was a pyramid in the eye.
Here we go. Huh.
And this is in Mexico, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
The official story in Mexico is that these masts are media masts for just transmitting TV everywhere.
Okay.
But obviously, give them entertainment, and they'll have these masts go up. They won't question them. But what are all these masts and tetramasts doing? I think there's in a place called Ilkley, which is 30 minutes from Leeds. There's a personal friend of mine goes to a tennis club, and in this particular tennis club, I can't remember whether it was the government or whoever it was who paid them, but basically paid them £20,000 a year to put one tetramast up in that site.
Yeah.
Basically, if there's that many of them, there's hundreds of thousands of them, and they're paying £20,000 a year for every one of them.
We had a guy called Walter Graham on the program, and I highly recommend that in regards to just the overall, danger and what potentially is going on with the whole Wi-Fi, cell phone, DECT phone, or everything cordless, basically. But I think it was Walter, and I'm sorry if I'm mistaken this, but I think it was Walter who talked about these tetramasts, that this is the new system that the police use, because they managed to move away from the old analog radio frequency system that they used and wanted to bring in a new one, and they needed a more powerful system also, because they were competing, as it were, with all the other Wi-Fi and cell phone thing going on here.
I mean, apparently that's the official story on them, but apparently most of the police are still running around using the Blackberries.
Okay.
which is obviously insinuating that they're not really using the system that they've got set up.
Really, that's interesting. So,
Yeah.
so it might be. I mean, what you're suggesting here also then, I guess, a little bit is that the infrastructure for beaming signals, if you will, into people's heads is basically laid out now. If you look at the Wi-Fi or cell phone system, they're looking at implementing this on a global level. They're talking about global coverage. There isn't one single spot on the entire Earth that you can go not to have coverage, with your cell phone company,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's definitely all part of it. There's something with electric energy.
Yeah.
This is almost like alien. I don't know what it is, but and the fact that it's creeping up around us and we're all being plugged in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even I think it was Tesla and others who talked about the different different characters of electrical light, and apparently right now we're using one which is apparently not the best version of it, if you will.
Tesla had formulated a system that operated without wires, and it ran through the earth as opposed to overhead, didn't it?
Of course.
I think that's what was set up there.
Exactly, and even the whole AC/DC thing going on, direct current. There's another way that you can another frequency you can run the electricity on, which isn't apparently as harmful as it is right now. Even people have discovered what's known as the Lily wave within the electrical signal is basically a carrier wave also, and they've discovered the Lily wave running throughout a lot of the different electrical grids. And there's a whole story behind that. We don't have time to get into all of that, but do a Google search also are curious on the Lily wave and read up on that, because that's fascinating, So
okay, my personal opinion is that they decided to insist on the current system of electricity, electric distribution that we've got. Because if you look at what a pylon is an obelisk with a few things strapped on the side.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's the same shape, and I'm sure it's connected somewhere.
It's very interesting. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the also what you might think how they will present if we go back, think of either Project Blue Book or Bluebeam, or something similar, some big event or whatever, and after this point maybe they would introduce like the new Messiah or whatever, and you theorized a little bit that this is connected with Prince William then. How do you think like a presentation of that would be in effect, and how would people be presented to an idea like that, or to continue the question, would that even be necessary to a certain extent, because people on one level always already kind of worship the monarch, the royal family.
Not enough to create a one world religion government, I wouldn't have said, but
so it needs something more. Is that what you're saying? It needs a boost.
I mean, as I've said before, one current theme that runs between Christianity and Islam is the angel Gabriel, which, as I've said, could be personified as ISIS, identified with ISIS, and I've obviously identified that with Princess Diana. And I'm obviously, this is, I've got what I think one day might change the next, i.e. how I see this thing running out, but I wouldn't be surprised if it involves some re-emergence of Diana. Because if you look in the book of Revelations, for instance, it refers to the woman clothed in the sun, standing on the moon, descending with the 12 stars around her head, essentially, which refers to ISIS coming down and giving birth, to the Son of God as sorts. I'm not sure. I mean, my personal opinion and how I see this unfolding, and obviously, I'm not saying that it's one specific event. It's gonna be a bit of time in which this unfolds.
Of course, yeah.
And the way I see it unfolding is essentially that it's going to involve a two-stage sequence, like a double dupe of sorts. And I think the very first stage could be associated with extraterrestrial visitors. I think that could be the very first stage of the plan.
Yeah.
And then obviously moving into the new Messiah and this sort of second coming, if you want to call it that. That's the one to clinch it. You'll have the aliens come down, and then you've got the second stage, and that'll clinch it, and everyone will go with that, not thinking that it's potentially all a big hoax.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? It's like double dupe. Like they're gonna, because that could really reinforce it in everyone's minds.
Of course. And I mean, I remember.
So I was just going to say, however it plays out, if this thing does play out as I kind of envisage it, it's just going to be one hell of a light show.
Of course, well, it's going to be a spectacle with no end. So,
better than any Hollywood movie.
Oh, of course. No, I mean it's incredible. I'm thinking of a few comments that Marcus Allen did. For instance, he talked about the Skunk Works. One of the companies behind. Some of the more advanced stealth planes and the bombers had that they had incredible technology that it's so much more beyond what we even can imagine. So even if we would see something really incredible up in the sky, we still have no clue if this is human technology. I mean, we might look at this as this can't be human technology. It's impossible because again we're conditioned and we have all this time be compared to the older technology. If we look at it like this, to put this in perspective, I think this is an important point. If we look at, for instance, air traffic, how airplanes have, if you will, stuck in the 60s or 70s. Nothing basically has happened. We've gotten fancier seats and a few they've remodeled the design of the things a little bit and maybe advance some of the aerodynamics so it goes a little bit better through the air or whatever.
I do believe that's part of the agenda.
Of course.
I mean, obviously the fact that that we've had no progression in technology as far as aviation is concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, I paid a visit down to the Wenceslas mine in Poland. Are you aware of that, where the Nazi Bell was supposedly operated and stuff? I took a road trip out there into the middle of nowhere, just to go look at this. Have you seen the picture of the henge and stuff?
Is that the kind of octagonal or hexagonal?
I took a trip there essentially.
Yeah, wow, nice.
Just to try and get a feel for the area, and it's desolate and it's destroyed, but there's obviously evidence of a huge operation going on there.
Really? Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously you can follow that through, and you could easily read into the fact that we have got this technology, and we've had this technology for a good 60 years now.
Yeah, of course.
And obviously the main predominant reason for not releasing it is at the moment there's acknowledgement that we've got free energy. Then obviously everything goes to pot when they're trying to charge you for all the energy coming into your house.
Of course.
It collapses the system, doesn't it?
Of course, we know about the background now, how Morgan and the other fellows hijacked some of Tesla's systems because they said, how the heck can you put a price tag on energy that just swirls throughout the air? Anyone can pick it up. We don't want that. We want something that we can be put a meter on and charge everyone for every kilowatt hour. That's the plan here. And going back to that idea, looking at, for instance, how computers have evolved, moving on from like the 60s or whatever. That's a huge leap if we compare it to how cars have been developed or how again air traffic have been developed. So
it's very interesting, like the evolution of technology in the sense of computers. Obviously, my opinion is it all stems from Roswell. It does stem from Roswell.
It's back engineer technology here. Is that what you're saying?